Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action. Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. For any of you who listen all the way to the end of the show, you know I was going to feature Mark Lambert and talk about VR on this week's show. I'm going to save him for the future because I have something more timely. For the third year in a row, Andy Edmunds, the director of the Virginia Film Office, comes on the show to talk about the production industry last year and what's coming up in 2024, including an exciting new movie that actually just started filming in the Richmond area.
Sifter Review of the Week.
The Completely Made-Up Adventures of Dick Turpin on Apple+. After he fails at his father's butcher business, Dick Turpin, played by Noel Fielding, decides to become England's greatest highwayman. He assembles a trio of sidekicks for some truly absurd adventures. The cast is populated with actors enjoying their embellished performances, including delightful star turns from Hugh Bonneville and Tamsin Greig. This series certainly has elements of other British comedies that trade in ridiculousness, like Monty Python and Blackadder. As a result, there's non-stop silliness, some of which falls flat, but much more lands with a laugh. It's a silly romp that continually entertains and sometimes elicits chuckles. I gave The Completely Made-Up Adventures of Dick Turpin 4 out of 5 stars. So, Mr. Andy Edmunds, welcome back to Sifter for the Ear. Third, fourth, or fifth time. I'm not even sure which. We've lost count.
However many times it was just not enough, Jerry.
Yeah, I need you more. That's right. I've been trying to. And this is our annual 2023 look back in 2024. How long have you been at the film office, by the way?
27 years.
Wow.
Yep.
So what happened in the last year? What happened in 2023 in town that you can tell us about?
Well, there was a little strike that happened.
Well, yeah, I think I heard about that.
That was fun. So it was a really, really tough year for many, many people. We had a couple of projects that were able to get a waiver and proceed. We had Melanie Linsky came in and did an independent film, a comedy. It's supposed to be really funny. Can't wait to see that. It's called Griffin in Summer.
Footnote.
Melanie Linsky has been in many movies and TV shows, but is probably best known for her most recent role as the lead in Yellow Jackets.
And a couple of other smaller things. And then the commercial business seemed to pick up in some areas, but it's just been tough. It's a tough time in this industry in general. There's a contraction, Jerry, you probably read about.
Right.
And the number of shows that are being produced every year, because now the way the business used to be set up, it's changed in that there's a lot of corporate stockholder accountability that has to occur related to subscriber numbers that, it's not really a long-term play as it once was. There's a lot of really urgent need to have short-term results. So, you combine that crossroads of this shrinkage that's occurring in the industry as a whole, combined with new technology of AI that's coming out, and it's a really uncertain time as we look ahead. One thing that will always remain, I believe, there will always be somebody creating a story and somebody consuming a story.
Now, speaking of business, you mentioned early that Melanie Linsky was here in a movie. She got a waiver. You want to explain what that means in terms of a waiver?
So we had a Screen Actors Guild strike last year. A lot of movies shut down. Now, you could, as a producer, agree up front that no matter what the results of the negotiation are between Screen Actors Guild and the studios, we will agree to those terms. And it was hard to get a waiver. I was glad these guys got it. It was kind of touch and go. And we helped making some calls in that regard too, implore upon Screen Actors Guild to please help our folks go to work down here. So, but other than that, it was a slow year in terms of large scale production that you see press releases about, Jerry. There was still a lot of independent filmmakers doing their thing and documentary work at the Discovery Channel and other commercials and things we work on our day-to-day work here at the film office. But it certainly created a migration away from the business for some people that just could not bear the uncertainty of, when the work would come and how steady the work will be.
Right. Sure.
Which leads us to the next conversation that I'm sure we'll be talking about is what is the fuel that drives that consistent workflow to allow us to grow the industry here in Virginia. Film incentives still drive the front end of the machine for large scale production, right?
Right.
And it's still a very competitive landscape out there. There's about 35 states that have pretty aggressive film incentive programs.
And just about everybody around us now has them and has more than we have, right?
Has more, a lot more than we have. I mean,
Right, right.
at one point, North Carolina had reduced their incentive from 30 million down to 10, which was still more than we had at the time. So
Right.
I wasn't very sympathetic to them. But now, of course, they're back up to 31 million. Maryland has increased theirs slightly, and I think another increase possibly next year. And of course, West Virginia got a no cap tax credit, meaning that as many shows that will plant themselves in West Virginia, they will be eligible for about a 25% rebate.
Wow.
And we beat a lot of people in terms of our diverse location palette. You know, we can
Sure.
place
Yeah.
so many different things here, historical stuff to contemporary stuff. So that's why Virginia is so popular among filmmakers, because they can tell any kind of story here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Now, 2 weeks ago, I talked to Tom Belgray, who worked on the legislature this year for tax incentives. He seemed to say that didn't go very well. What was the final outcome?
Well, you know, it did not. There was an effort to increase the tax credit to 40 million per year, which would put us about in the middle of the pack of our competition. Right now, we have a combination between tax credit and grants about 11.5 million a year to work with.
Wow.
That puts us really way down the pack in terms. $11 million is a lot of money, it sounds like, but compared to Georgia, that stroked out $1.2 billion in
Wow.
1 year.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so 1.2 billion versus 11, it's hard to compete with that. But the appetite in the legislature, because of some other budget priorities and concerns, it was just not able to make it through the machine down there. We're thankful for whatever tools were provided to try to drive the work. And I think we have proven to be super efficient in how we use what is provided to bring a significant amount of work. Unfortunately, to bring that work, especially coming out of COVID, we had to use a lot of the funds to induce that work coming out of COVID that is booked up for a couple of years now, you know. So now we need to get some more fuel in the tank, or we will not have additional incentives to bring some work going forward other than some work that's in the pipeline right now.
Obviously, you just talked about locations, and we do have everything from mountains to the ocean. If you only got 11 million to work with, what else can you do to try to sell Virginia?
Well, you sell to the type of content that is produced that is not is dependent upon incentives. You know, like some commercial work, even some commercials are expecting to get incentives now, but other kind of even reality show like work, History Channel, Discovery Channel. But, you know, these are shows that we love having them and having them work here. But it's really, instead of 150 people on a crew, it's 9 people on a crew. You know, so it just doesn't have the scale that moves the needle in terms of creating high wage jobs for a long period of time. But one thing I've always wondered about and had been proposing at one point is to try to put together some kind of film financing fund, you know, like a revenue bond or something, where if you could create a fund of money where you could provide financing. The one thing that would get a filmmaker here, especially in independent film, this wouldn't work for the studios, but for independent filmmakers, the one thing that would get them here almost as fast as free money would be first money.
And when you say first money, you mean that if I came to you and said, hey, I want to make a movie, I need at least $50,000 to get started. That's what you mean by first money?
Not for development money, but if someone came that had a script and the script was reviewed through this advisory board and said this has, including a sales agent that would know about the viability of the marketability of this project, and they came and said, we've already attached this actor to it, and so you already know the viability of a project, they come to this fund and say, okay, this is going to cost $4 million to make this movie. It's going to be a 26-day shoot. And then the fund could say, okay, yeah, we will fund 75% of the movie, and we're going to own a piece of it as an investor in the movie. You go raise the other 25%. Then the movie goes forward. And if the movie's successful, of course, the fund would be the first ones to be paid back, right? Now, of course, some filmmakers want the incentive free money and the first money. You know, you go to Canada and you go to the UK, you can get both. You go to France, you can get financing for your film and you get incentive money. You know,
wow.
It's just how a culture appreciates the art form.
So to create that, let's say $100 million, is that just something you can write a check for out of your personal account, Andy, or
Absolutely.
where does that money? Would that be something the legislature would have to put up, or is that a bank would do it, or where would that 100 million come from?
Well, you have to get like a financial services company to like create a bond, right? And then it would have a certain risk profile, and they would take this bond out to market, and they would try to raise money through retirement funds and all the normal places where bonds are funded from. And you would tell the people buying into the bond, say, okay, we're going to give you a 7.5% return, and it's going to pay off in 48 months or whatever. And then you loan the money out to these projects coming forward. You loan it to them at a higher interest rate, so the bond makes money on the gap in between, right?
Okay.
So it's like a regular kind of financial instrument that someone would take out. Look, I'm not a financial expert. I'm just talking to some people about this.
Before we look back, I want to ask you a little bit more. What was the comedy that Melanie Linsky was in, and where did it shoot?
It's called Griffin and Summer. And I'm not sure when it's going to come out. I think they're still editing right now. And they shot in a house over in Southside for a couple of weeks. And just it was mainly around Central Virginia. It was mainly around Richmond.
And what do they know what service it's going to be on?
Not yet. They're
Okay.
It's one of those movies they're going to complete and probably roll it out to the festival circuit and see who can buy it and where it'll end up.
So let me ask you that because it brings up a question we've never discussed. So Melanie Linsky was here for that. Obviously, we've had many other people from Ethan Hawke twice, Steven Spielberg. What kind of special arrangements or stuff do you have to do when you've got somebody like those semi-famous or very famous people here?
Well, yeah, there's always special needs, but Steven Spielberg rolls in with a whole team,
Sure,
of
yeah.
security and other support. And we will, send some leads to them, and then their people kind of run with it and figure that out, their housing. Melanie Linsky on an independent film, she's not rolling with security. She's just looking
Right.
for a hotel for her to stay in for the few days that she was here. One of the things our office will provide is connections to housing options, whether they're private houses that people have rented. Like Ethan stayed in the same house in the Fan for both shows. He was here and loved it, loved living in the
Great.
Fan.
Yeah.
And people are creatures of habit. I had one house in the Fan that we probably used for, 6 or 7 different producers and actors over the years. Now, unfortunately, that house was sold, but, it's often trying to find a homeowner that has a river house they can go stay in for 4 or 5 months, and they're willing to give up their house. I mean, most recently on a project we're working on, we were really desperately looking for houses, for these people to stay in. And then also we'll make introductions to our sales contacts at all the local hotels to do larger blocks of rooms. There's a big show can come in and they can have 40,000 room nights they'll book on a show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big block of rooms. So they love it when people show up from the film business because they're like super tourists with a payroll.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, also, Jerry, when they come here, I like to host our clients and show them what Virginia has to offer. And when they're in Richmond, take them around. I invited a bunch of people, producers recently, to go to the National and see an artist that was playing there. And I'm always just kind of give them advice like, hey, this weekend, Irish Festival, Churchill, don't miss it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That kind of thing. And right now I'm hooking up some NASCAR. You may not believe it, but just some of the Hollywood folks are into NASCAR. So we like to be great, hospitable hosts and show them a good time here in Virginia, because then if they had a good experience, it makes them want to come back.
Right.
So everyone in the city of Richmond is an ambassador in tourism, right?
And it's a big food town, so they've obviously got lots of places to eat, and that's always a good selling point.
Absolutely. That's like number 3 on the list when I'm talking to clients. It's locations, crew, and food. The great restaurant dining choices we have here in Richmond is pretty outstanding, and they love coming back for that too.
I know there used to be, I assume there still are film markets, big conventions where all the different either states come in or the distributors come in. Are you still going to those? Are they still having those?
The Locations Expo, it's called, where all the film commissions from around the world come together and meet. There's about 350 film commissions around the world now.
Wow.
It used to be interesting, Jerry. It used to be, we'd have a big convention in Santa Monica Civic Center, right? And all the states and all the countries would set up these booths, and you would have pictures and, these beautiful booths that you would design with your theme of your state.
Right.
It used to be a conversation about locations. And then I noticed over the years, the Locations Expo turned into more like an incentive expo. You used to go by the booths, you see all these pictures. Now you go by a booth and you see 20% off, 30% off, 40% off, 50%,
Right,
it's going
right.
like to a Walmart or something, as opposed to a creative endeavor.
And I was going to ask you, with 300 and something booths, how does Virginia set itself apart? Obviously, with pictures of scenery, it doesn't work anymore, just oceans and mountains.
We would win ribbons all the time for our booth
Really?
because we would hand out Virginia Gentleman bourbon.
Well, that's perfect.
People loved our booth. We had little tiny bottles of that. We would hand those to our VIP clients. A lot of our business has been repeat customers. There's a connectivity of either a producer or a line producer or someone that I knew
Right.
that, had a good experience that will then call and then say, hey, we were thinking about this thing. What can we do? And then we struggle through trying to cobble together the incentive to make it happen. The relationships that we've invested in for, over 30 years, those relationships will just be for naught almost, because we have incredible reputation in the industry as being production partners. Some film commissions just like slam out permits, like you never even hear from them. We get on the ground and solve problems with them and help them, get from point A to B as another producer almost on the project. And they appreciate that. And that's what makes them want to come back.
Speaking of coming back, what's coming forward? What can we look for in 2024 that you can talk about?
Well, things are, heating up right now. And unfortunately, as you know, this is a pretty significant project that we've been working on for about 6 years, actually. And it's all coming to fruition right now. But because I'm on an NDA with the with the client, I can't really talk about it. But it's going to be a great project. And they're starting to hire people now.
And I guess I can't say the name because you can't confirm or deny, so it doesn't do me any good to say the name.
You can say whatever you want, but I can't confirm or deny.
Well, let's just say it's a Virginian who has the same last name as I do. We'll just leave it at that. And I know you can't even say that much.
I will not confirm or deny. But all I can say is I'm really excited about it. And this particular project has a very Virginia-centric message in it. It's the greatest product placement for a state tourism slogan in the history of cinema. Let's put it that way.
Great. Well, is it a series or a movie? Can you say that
It's
much?
a feature. It's a feature film.
It is.
Yeah,
Great.
It's
Okay,
a feature film.
good.
Yeah.
Footnote.
No official word, but my research reveals 2 upcoming Pharrell Williams movies. One is a Lego version of his life, and the other is a feature called Atlantis that's based on his childhood growing up in the Atlantis apartments in Virginia Beach, starring recent Oscar winner Davine Joy Randolph, Kelvin Harrison, Andre 3000, Mary J. Blige, and Missy Elliott. Speaking of feature films, I understand that one of us has a screenplay they've been working on, and it ain't me.
Well, I've been working on stuff over the years. I worked on a short, Jerry, a long time ago, right before COVID, on 2 news events that happened at the same time simultaneously. And I sent it to a couple friends in the crew around here. And they said, "Oh, I think it's hilarious. We should shoot it." So we were getting ready to go shoot this short, and then COVID came. So it all fell apart. I had some really great people lined up to shoot it. And
You didn't call me.
sorry, man. I know you should have been in there.
Actually, I was retired by then, so you're off the hook.
Well, I was going to direct the thing, because
okay.
look, I've worked on 68 movies now, Jerry. I've kind of paid attention. And I just figured that, look, if I get a good DP and a good first AD and I have a good script and I have some good talent, you can kind of get it done. So I was confident that I could do the short. A year ago, on Christmas break, I had 2 weeks because nothing happens in the business around Christmas anyway. So I sat down with my laptop and said, okay, I'll start messing with this thing. By New Year's Eve, I had about 90 pages. I had the whole screenplay. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of laying out there. And some people think it's pretty funny. And I sent it blindly to this thing called the Blacklist of people just submit scripts and try to get it reviewed by professional readers. And a friend of mine suggested that I send it in there. And he said, man, if you get a 6, it goes 1 to 10 is the score, right? If you get a 6, that's a really good score. And I got a score back and I got an 8. And that's top 4%, right, of all the screenplay submissions. And I told my friend I got an 8. He's like, "You got an 8? What?" He said, "I've been sending stuff in for years. I've never got an 8." He was like really upset about it. Anyway, I just, throw it out there, but nothing's happening right now.
Is there something else that we haven't had a chance to talk about, that some news about the film office, or about maybe something that is going to happen here, or something that would be interesting to tell people?
To be honest with you, the last several weeks have been just head down working on this particular thing that I'm unable to talk about.
Right.
And,
Sure.
you know, the train is moving down the tracks and they'll start shooting April 25th. So,
Oh, wow.
you know, it's,
Okay.
yeah, it's coming pretty fast.
So when you're not working on trying to get that project or any others in town, what are you watching lately?
What am I watching lately? I just watched an interesting documentary. I think it was on Netflix about this IndyCar driver and his children who are following in his footsteps. And it was from the point of view of his wife raising these kids. And I can't remember what it was called, but it was really good. But of course, you know, The Bear, I got consumed in The Bear, was amazing. And I watch John Oliver religiously every week. And, you know.
We're a Daily Show fan, so it's opposite.
Yeah, I like Daily Show too. Of course. No, there's so much stuff out there. How many subscriptions do you have now, Jerry?
All of them.
I know, and it's something. I think I've got all of them too. It's crazy. I mean, it is crazy. But then you know something you want to see, it's on one of them. You gotta get it, and then you forget to cancel the subscription. So then you end up with all of them.
Well, I will let you get back to trying to get some work here, and we will look forward to talking either next year to see how great 2024 was, or maybe we'll talk before. We can talk about this movie or your screenplay becoming a movie.
Wouldn't that be something? Maybe that'll be my third act, Jerry.
There you go.
All right, man. Well, look, I appreciate everything you do and keeping everybody together and wired up and supporting the community here, Jerry. I really appreciate it.
So we love what you guys do too. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon,
All
I'm
right.
sure.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Andy Edmunds, director of the Virginia Film Office, finishing up his annual visit to discuss the production industry in Virginia.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Godzilla x Kong, or Godzilla times Kong, The New Empire. The two titans clash again. Problemista. Clever comic Julio Torres wrote, directed, and stars as an aspiring toy designer from El Salvador who tries to sell his designs before his work visa expires. Also starring Tilda Swinton and RZA. The Land of Saints and Sinners. Liam Neeson as yet another seasoned killer, living in a remote Irish village where he fights for redemption. Asphalt City. Sean Penn and Ty Sheridan play EMT paramedics in this dark drama. A Cat's Life. A girl and her feline companion leave Paris for a vacation in the country. Someone Like You. Based on Karen Kingsbury's novel about a man who loses his best friend, then discovers she has a secret twin.
TV and streaming.
Parish on AMC. Giancarlo Esposito stars as a taxi driver who picks up a gangster known for exploiting undocumented immigrants. A Gentleman in Moscow on Paramount Plus with Showtime. Ewan McGregor plays a Russian aristocrat who's confined to house arrest in hotels during the Bolshevik Revolution. Renegade Nell on Disney. A woman becomes a notorious outlaw in 18th century England. Then a magical spirit comes along. The Beautiful Game on Netflix. Based on a real story, Bill Nighy plays the man who organized an annual tournament for homeless men to compete in a series of football matches known as the Homeless World Cup. Heart of the Hunter on Netflix. A retired assassin gets back to work when he uncovers the conspiracy at the heart of the South African government. The Wages of Fear on Netflix, a remake of the classic 50s film about a team who has to drive 2 truckloads of nitroglycerin across a dangerous desert. We Were the Lucky Ones on Hulu. A Jewish family strives to survive after being separated during World War II, and there's a Richmond connection that I'll feature on a future podcast. Next week, we'll feature a local filmmaker whose shorts will be featured in this year's James River Film Festival. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
visit tvjerry.com.